Let me know, guys, if you can see my screen. Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so from today onwards, you're starting with a new topic, that is the fragments. So I think some of you, if not, did you guys get a chance to look at what are the fragments? If possible, anybody knows what can be the fragments?
Basically, dividing the screen into fragments means suppose you want
Okay.
inputs in one field, buttons in, and some, suppose if you say input in the above, in the middle maybe some kind of setting, and in the end displaying a list display, something kind of a table display.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so anybody other? Anyone? Okay, so let me tell you what are the fragments. Okay, so fragments are the lightweight UI elements. Okay, fragments are lightweight UI elements or a parts. Okay, that can be reused wherever you need it. Wherever you need. Okay, but what is the main what is the main motive for behind this, for using this fragment in our application? The main use that we can, the same line of code, for example, let's say if I create one file which is a fragment file and it's having the common controls, okay, and that controls I definitely need it and throughout the application. Okay, so what I will do, instead of declaring n number of times, I can create one fragment file and I can simply call it wherever I need it. Okay, so that's why generally we use the fragments. Okay, so generally the fragments are of three types. One can be the same like view, what we have for the views, like HTML view, JS view. Okay, so same in the fragments also we have JS fragments, HTML fragments and XML fragments. But for that also SAP recommends to use only the XML fragments. So that's why we will totally focus on the XML fragments rather than other parts. Okay, other types. So generally the fragment files can be created by the extension .fragment.xml. Okay, so generally we create a fragment, that is you need to give the fragment name, after that the extension would be .fragment.xml, same like what we have for the views, right? In the view we have .view.xml, so same like in the fragment we have .fragment.xml. But what can be the main difference behind the fragments and the views is that, for example, I will go back to this. Okay, generally in the view.xml file we have the controller name, right? So we have controller name. So in that, for each view we have associated controller file, right? But for the fragment we don't have the controller name. Okay, so fragments are independent of controllers. Okay, and they are also, that's why you don't need a MVC concept for the fragment to be used, because the fragments are independent of MVC style framework. Okay, so what is the main reason behind using the fragment is that they are very lightweight. So why they are lightweight? We can also use the same view, right, n number of times, but what is the main difference between using the views and the fragments also? The reason behind is that when you use the fragments, the fragment don't have its own control instance. Okay, the fragment don't have its own properties or methods, what we generally have for the view. Like for the view we have control name, so these are all properties. Okay, we also define some methods for the views, so that everything is possible, because view is also one kind of control. But when we talk about the fragment, for the fragment we don't have any controller, because the fragment cannot be called as a control. Okay, so whenever you declare anything inside the fragment, rather than returning the fragment, it will return whatever we have declared inside the fragment. Let's say if I am declaring the button control, okay, if I am declaring the button control inside the fragment file, so instead of returning me the fragment, it will return the button instead of fragment. Okay, so that's why the fragments are very lightweight. So why we are not preferring the view? Because for the view we always require one controller file. Okay, and if you want to use the view, so for that controller file is mandatory. But what about the fragments? So fragment generally what it does, suppose this is the main page.view.xml and this is the controller, okay, for that main page.view.xml file. Okay, and if I want to call the fragment here, so what will happen, the fragment will utilize the main page.controller.js file if you want to add any event handlers. Okay, in the fragment, let's say if I have the button, and in that button if I am calling any function, so because as the fragments are independent of controller, so what they will use, they will use the main page.controller.js. Why? Because from this controller only we have initialized the fragment. So from wherever you initialize the fragment, from that place only the fragment will try to utilize the existing controller. Okay, is this clear? Should I explain it once again?
Yes, Ravi, please.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm saying, so fragments are not similar to views, okay, but they can behave as a views only. Means the way you declare the controls inside the view, so in the same manner we can declare the controls inside the fragment. Okay, but the difference is that for the view we have controllers. Okay, we have the controller file, because for each view we have associated controller file, but for the fragment there is no associated controller file. It is independent of controller file. But when the controller file can be used, from where, suppose from the controller file, if I am trying to revoke this fragment, okay, if I am trying to invoke the fragment, so in that time what fragment will do, fragment will utilize the controller from where it is being initialized. Okay, so if I'm using any one of the controller file to call the fragment file, so from where it is called, the fragment will utilize the controller file. Okay, so let me go back to the application and I'll explain you how it works. Okay, so I'll remove some commented codes. So this is our existing application only. In that only I'll try to add fragment. Okay, so generally we use the fragments for the pop-up kind of controls like the dialog box. Okay, so I'll show you one dialog box. Okay, so dialog, it is one kind of a control for which we generally prefer the fragment, because the dialog is also not part of a view. It always appears on the top of view. Okay, because same like it is just a kind of a pop-up. Means when you call any pop-up, so how it performs, it always appears on the top of the view. Okay, it is not a part of view. It always appears on the top of view. So that's why if you want to use any pop-up or a dialog, in that case definitely prefer the fragment. Okay, let's say this is the dialog. I'll click on it. So the dialog, so this is the one kind of pop-up. So you can see in the pop-up, so pop-up always appears on the top of the view, right? It is not included with this current view. It is always appears on the top of view. So that's why when you use the control like this, so you should definitely prefer the fragments. Okay, so what I will do, I'll create one fragment file. Okay, so for creating the fragment file, the best practice is that you should always create a separate folder in the web app for the fragments. Okay, So what I will do, I'll first create the fragment folder. I'll right click on a web app and there is a folder. Okay, create one fragments folder. I'll click on OK. So once my fragment folder is created, then I'll include the file or create the file. Okay, so generally what is the extension for the fragment file? .fragment.xml. Okay, so I'll create one fragment file like okay, so this is the file I have created. I'll press OK. Okay, so now how to declare the controls inside the fragments. For example, in the view.xml we have followed the syntax, right? The view, app, pages, and then we have the controls, right? But same like, for example, what I will do, I'll include the button control inside the fragment. Okay, so this is my fragment.xml file. So whenever you declare any control, so before that you have to specify the fragment definition. Okay, so for that I'll write the tags like core fragment definition. Okay, so this is the syntax you always need to follow if you want to declare any controls inside the fragment file. Okay, so fragment definition, I'll close this tag. Now I have to declare the namespace also, right? The core XML NS core equal to, so fragments are included, all fragments assets are included inside the library sap.ui.core. Okay, so this is the library or the namespace in which the fragment definition it's included. Okay, so after that I'll declare one more namespace for the common libraries like sap.m. Okay, and after that I'll simply use button. Okay, now so this is the button text. Okay, so now this is the button that I have included in the inside fragment definition. Now how to call this fragment? Okay, so this fragment is, as of now, it is not a part of view. Okay, so when you call the fragment, then what will happen? Automatically it can be included inside the view, okay, on the runtime. But before that it is not available. You cannot access this button without loading the fragment.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
Hello, Srini. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so what I've done, I have included the fragment file. Okay, so inside that the button is included now. So I have to call this button. Okay, so I have to include this button inside the fragment, inside the view.xml file. Okay, so for that what I will do, as of now, just I'll comment this code. So there are two ways to call the fragment. Okay, so one is from the view and the next one is from the controller. Okay, so using these two methods or the two ways you can load the fragment inside the view file. Okay, so now what would be the syntax if you want to load the fragment file inside the view? So first thing, we need to check whether we have the core namespace or not. Okay, XML NS. I'll include first core namespace because the fragment, all the fragment libraries are included in the core namespace. So that's why I'll include this library one.
Hello.
Guys, can you please unmute? Okay. Okay, so now what I have to do? So I have declared the core namespace now. So I have to call the fragment. Okay, so for calling the fragment in the view.xml file, the syntax is core colon fragment. Okay, after that fragment name equal to, and what type of fragment it is? It is of type XML. Okay, so this is the fragment that I have included. So in the fragment name I have to pass the path where my fragment file is located. Okay, same like what we already have in this. Okay, how the controller file is located? Using the com.appz first app dot controller dot main page. So same, what I will do, I'll copy all the path. So after that I'll put dot and then fragments, the folder name, dot hello world. Okay, so now my fragment file is loaded. So I'll save and I'll run this app. Okay, so when I run this app, I can see the fragment, whatever the control I have declared inside the fragment, that is appearing on the view file. Okay, so that is how you mainly instantiate the fragment with the help of view.xml file. Okay, so there are some certain conditions that you need to take care when you use the fragments. Okay, so what can be the first condition? That if you're using the fragment in the view.xml file, if you instantiate the fragment in the view.xml file, so make sure that ID, you don't declare the ID. Okay, because if you are trying to use the same fragment in the n number of times, so by default, as of now, I have not defined any ID. I have not given any ID to this fragment. So if I want to check the runtime ID of that fragment, I'll inspect and I'll check for the button. So how the IDs are prefixed with this button ID. Okay, so is there any button ID that I have declared for this button? No, as of now there is no ID for this button. So I'll hover on it in the elements tab. So when I can see, so this is the button, right, that we have declared. So by default SAP assigns the ID. Okay, if you are not assigning any ID to this button, but still SAP will assign. Okay, but if you define the ID, the btn fragment. Okay, so this is the ID I will declare, and after that I'll reload. So let's check what is the runtime ID now. Okay, I'll hover on it, and this is the button tag from where it is starting. So now you can see what is happening here. By default an XML view 0. Okay, so this is our button ID. So if you are not assigning any ID, so still your view, or SAP will assign the ID to that file or to that control. But if you are assigning any ID, a specific ID to your control like button, so what will happen? It will be prefixed with the XML ID from the view. So from this view only I have initialized the fragment, right? So this is the view. Okay, so this is the view from which I have instantiated this fragment. So what will happen? So based on that, to make the IDs for that button as a unique, so by default SAP assigns the views ID. Okay, SAP prefix the views ID with the ID that we have declared for the button. Okay, if the SAP is not doing the prefix for this button ID, so what will happen? Same, whatever the button I can see, it will appear for the next view. Okay, if I'm creating one more view apart from this view, and in that also if I'm calling the same fragment, so I would definitely get a duplicate ID kind of error. So in order to avoid such kind of conditions, in order to make the IDs as a unique, that's why SAP prefix the IDs with the XML IDs from where it is being instantiated. Okay, so now this is the syntax that we generally instantiate a fragment in the view.xml file. If you want to instantiate, or if you want to call the fragment in the view.xml file, simply use the namespace name. Okay, so this is the core. After that the fragment space, and then use the property fragment name equal to com dot, and this is generic path for this fragment name. Okay, and then we have type. So what type of it is? XML. Any questions in this?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Will you please explain that where com.app first? That link.
Okay. So what I'll tell you. So what about the com.app? So com.app, it is the namespace that we have defined at the time of project creation. Okay. So when you create any new project, there are two fields, right? First is a project name, and then we have the namespace. So this namespace is prefixed with the project name. So this is the project name. Okay. So this namespace is prefixed with the project name, and after that you can directly access any one of the folders if you want. Okay. So now one more question, that why I haven't prefixed .fragment.xml with this folder name, because internally SAP is using the resource unified resource naming convention. Okay. So this is the syntax that SAP follows, and internally by default it adds the extension. Okay. You don't have to add the extensions explicitly. It can be done internally only by the SAP. Okay. I hope I have answered your question.
So now when you have created this fragment button,
Yes.
right, so what code are you going to write in that?
What code? For example, now I've already given the number of tasks, right, in the previous. So let's say, in order to, instead of making this view.xml file completely with the load, means completely making it as a overhead of so many controls, we can simply modularize our code. Okay, we can modularize our code by creating the fragments. So what will happen? Your view can be loaded. Your view can be loaded.
You are lost. I can't hear you at all. Can others hear him?
No, I can't. Actually, no, it's the network.
Hi. Did anybody finish the assignment which was given yesterday?
Sorry, what?
The assignment which Avik has given us today.
No. Yeah, we joined it.
Hello, can you hear me, guys? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes, sir.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
actually my Wi-Fi router got, means it is completely dead now. I don't know, suddenly it stopped working. So now my voice is clear, right, to all of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay, I'm sharing my screen.
I lost you when you were talking about the code to be written in the fragment.
Yes, yes. So what I'm saying, why we write this code, because generally we use the fragment for modularize the code in order to make to make the lightweight of our view.xml file, because generally the view is some part of it's little bit heavy than the fragments, and though the fragments are lightweight, so that can be loaded faster than the view.xml file. So that's why we instead of making the view.xml file messy, we generally put mostly our controls inside the fragment file. Okay.
So you mean to say that this simple form code, it can go and sit in fragment button
Yes,
file, right?
that you can do. Yeah, what I'll do, I'll include this so that you will get to know. Okay, so this is the fragment simple form, and this is our definition. Inside that I'll paste it. Only I have to include the namespace. Okay, so it's the form one. Okay, so only the one property name is missing for the fragment definition, that is the controller name, right? In the view there is a controller name property, because for every view the associated controller file is there, but for the fragment there is no associated controller file. So that's why. So I'll save the code. Okay, and now I will reload that.
So by default it takes a controller.
Yes, by default. See?
Okay, what is it that for one project you'll have only one controller?
Sorry, what?
So for one project, do you have only one controller?
No. This is just for the, we have one navigation and routing concept. It's in a coming session. So before that, as of now, we are just working on the one view and one controller file. But in the application, there can be more than 10-15 controller files also at the same
Correct.
time.
So now this fragment button, how would it know that it has to go into this controller only, if you are not declaring it in the fragment?
Okay. So now, so I have already said, if you want to instantiate the fragment, that can be done in two ways, whether it can be from the view.xml or whether it can be from controller file. So now what is happening, this fragment is getting instantiated from the view, but for this view the associated controller file is this one, right? So if I'm declaring any methods also, so I can easily access. If I want to capture the events, so I can simply access or simply capture all those events inside this main page.controller.js file. Okay, so this same functions, it can definitely work also inside the controller file. Okay, I'll save code. So now let's say our code is already present, right? The fragment code is there, and this is also there. So yesterday we have added some methods also, right, in the main page. Like if the get placeholder. So I'll trigger this method with the help of fragment. Okay, so inside the fragment the input field is there. For input, this is the live change event that we have added. Okay, so now how the fragment is utilizing the current views from where it is initialized, the current views controller. So now I'll say, I'll go back to the main page.controller file. So if the placeholder is enter username, then what I will do, I have to make that particular event as, I'll make the border box. Okay, inside that I'll add one more condition, that okay, get source dot set to value state. Okay, I'll make the set value state as a error, and I'll check if the o event dot get source dot get value, if equal to null, sorry, if value is, I can add any condition as of now just for checking. Okay, so now I'll reload this app. Okay, so I'll type AK. So see, you can see how the controller was triggered, because what was happening, this fragment was instantiated from this view file, right? This is the main page.view.xml file, but for this view associated fragment was there, controller file was there. That's why I don't have to specify anything in the view. It's only one line of code is sufficient in order to utilize your code. Okay.
Yeah.
So is this fine?
Yes.
Yeah. So now one more thing here. So now let's say I'll declare one ID here. Okay, I'll give one ID to this fragment as okay, so this is the ID of the fragment. Okay, so I have specified, or I have explicitly added one ID to this fragment. Now if I want to access any IDs, okay, so for example, let's say if I want to access this ID, okay, when on the button click of login, so is there any way that I can do? I'll comment this code live change. I don't want this function or method to be triggered now. So now what I will do, if I want to access the ID, so what is the syntax for if I want to access the ID? Can anyone tell me?
This dot get view by ID.
Sorry?
This dot get view by ID.
Actually guys, there is a lot of raining. It is completely raining in our area, and so my network connection is also not good. So now what I will do, if I, at least my voice is clear to all of you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what I have to do, if I want to access some IDs, okay, if I want to access some IDs or controls with the help of IDs, so I will follow the same syntax, that this dot get view dot by ID, okay, and I have to copy the ID name here. So ID is INP username. Okay, so this is our ID. Now what I will do, I'll save this code. Oh, sorry, I have to give the comma here. And now we will just try to debug this code. Okay, how it will work. Okay, so now what I have to do, I'll add the debugger point and let's see if we are able to identify the ID. If you are able to identify or if you are able to locate this ID control with the help of ID or not. Okay, so this is our code. Okay, so I'll add the debugger point and now I'll click on login. Okay, so now I will copy this entire line of code and I'll paste it here. So now what it is returning me? It is returning me as an undefined. Why? What is the reason behind this? Why we are not able to access the ID? Anyone has any idea about this? We should be able to access.
I used it, but I don't know. I haven't checked it actually.
Okay. Okay, so let me tell you what was the difference behind it. So what happened? Okay, so inside the view we define this fragment. Okay, so generally if you are not declaring any ID to the fragment, so what will happen? By default, the structure, the ID structure or the naming syntax of your button control or any control, how the ID naming conventions follows like so. A fragment is defined in the main page.view.xml. Okay, so in that by default SAP will assign the views ID. Okay, views ID. After that, followed by the fragment ID. After that, if you have defined any ID to your control, then your controls ID. Okay, so this is the generic naming convention or the ID's naming convention that follows in the UI5. Okay, because inside the view I have the fragment and inside the fragment I have the control. So the first views ID would be prefixed and after that the fragment ID and then controls ID. Okay, so we'll check the ID of the control now by inspecting this ID. Okay, so now this is the ID. Okay, so this is the input. So what ID we have defined for the input? INP username, right? This is what the ID we defined for the input field, right? INP username. So what happened here? So when I checked, you can see one XML view 0. So by default one ID is on the runtime it is been created and it is been prefixed with the frag hello world. So this is the ID that we defined for the fragment. Okay. So this is our views ID, then the fragment ID, and then our input fields ID. Okay. So what is happening now? So we have only used input username, right? So this ID is only we have, but when we call this ID on the view, so we don't have this ID. Okay. So generally we don't have this ID as of now. So we are calling only this ID on the view, but view is not able to identify this ID. Okay, so when you call this .getView.by ID, so that ID definitely would be prefixed with this XML's ID. Okay, but we are not able to identify this fragment's ID. So that's why whenever you use any fragment, make sure that you don't use ID in the view part, but in the controller part it's necessary to prefix the IDs of the views. So that is how we generally use it. Okay. So if I remove this ID, I can simply able to find it out. Because as of now, SAP is doing internally to make your buttons ID as a unique throughout the application. Because wherever your fragment is called, it is by default prefixing the views ID. Okay. So I'll add the debugger. I think the debugger is already there. I'll click on the login. Now let's check if I'm able to identify it or not. I'll copy, I'll go back to the console I'll clear, and now I'll paste. Okay, so now I'm able to identify the ID. I'm able to get the control with the help of ID. Okay, so this is just a note for all of you that if you're prefixing any ID with the fragment, so make sure that it would be very hard for you to identify the ID. Okay, but there is also one other way, so that is helpful, but we don't recommend it. Okay, generally. So now what happens? We have defined this ID, right? Okay, I'll save, I'll reload the app. Okay, so now if I'm using the same ID, okay, if I'm pressing on the login, so in this case I'm getting the undefined, right? Because if I have specified a ID to the fragment, so in this case I'm getting the undefined. But there is also one other way through that you can access the ID still. If you're giving any name to your fragments, that syntax is I have to write sap.ui.getCore dot by ID, and inside that I'll pass this ID. Okay, I think in the view it is not working. 1 minute, guys. So what was the reason that we are not able to identify this ID? I'm getting the undefined. So in the first step, what we have understood that if you are prefixing any ID, so make sure that you will not get the ID from that control. So generally in the SAP only we don't recommend to use the ID. Everything we can perform with the help of model. Okay. So models are the concept that we will see in the coming sessions, but before that we have to work with the IDs only, but in some rare cases we can use the IDs. Okay, if it is not possible to handle from the model. So anyone has any questions in this the fragment declaration part? So we'll see how this can be helpful. Okay, so this syntax, generally we don't recommend this syntax sap.ui.getCore because it picks the ID from the core, and generally we don't want that any ID to be fetched from the core side. So that's why we don't recommend this syntax sap.ui.getCore.byId. Okay, but this syntax generally works in case of the controller. When you instantiate the fragment file from the controller, in that case it will definitely work. So any questions in this, the fragment definitions? Am I guys audible to all of you? Guys, anyone has any questions in this? You want me to explain once again?
No.
Which part should I explain? Okay, that's fine. Okay, we'll proceed with the next type of initialization. Okay, so till now we have seen that how to call the fragment from the view.xml file, and how to declare the controls inside the XML file. Okay, so now instead of declaring this simple form, I'll declare one dialog control. Okay, so generally if you are using the dialog, this type of control, a pop-up controls, so in that definitely you have to use the fragment. Okay, declaring this control directly inside the view or the controller, it will not work. Okay, because the dialog, it is a control. For that you definitely have to write a code in the JavaScript, then only this control can be called, otherwise it will be not be called. Okay, so how to call this control? So now you guys are thinking about why cannot we declare this control entirely on this view.xml file? Okay, but that is not possible. Okay, so for example, if I'm declaring any input or any button, so what will happen when I run this app? Automatically that controls will be appended. Okay, but in case of dialog, you cannot directly paste your code and directly save, or you cannot call directly the dialogs code on this view.xml file, because it has to be called. Okay, it has to be called from the controller.js file, then only that control will appear on the screen. So for such kind of controls, we definitely prefer the fragments, because those controls are not part of view. Okay, because those controls are that are completely different from the view. So for that type of controls also, we generally prefer the fragment.xml files. Okay, so what I will do, I'll remove this code. Okay, so now inside this I'll declare one dialog control. Okay, so dialog, it is a control for the pop-up, and inside the dialog we have the aggregation of content. Okay, and inside this I can display one text. Okay, so I'll give ID to this dialog. You can give, otherwise it is fine that if you are not giving it, or if you are not specifying it, then also it should work. Okay, I'll save this code now. Now how to call this fragment now? You cannot call this fragment, okay, on the XML, because what will happen, if you called it, this dialog will not appear on the screen. So we can try. What I will do, I'll save. Now dialog is on the view, right? See, I cannot see whatever the content I have declared inside the fragment.xml file. It is not visible at all, right, on the view file. But what can be the other thing? Because the dialog is not part of the view control, it's completely, always it appears on the top of view. So that's why it is some kind of a different control. So now let's say how to call this dialog in the controller.js file. Okay, we cannot instantiate this dialog in a view.x. For instantiating the dialog, we always need the controller.js file. So what I'll do, I'll comment this code now for the view.xml file. Comment, and now okay, I'll use one button here. Okay, so now this is the, so I will call this method. Okay, so now what is the generic syntax to call the fragment inside the control? So the syntax is, first I'll make sure that I'll store the value of I'll store the reference of view inside the oview variable. Okay, so this dot get view, and after that go dialog. Okay, so oview dot by ID. So what is the ID of our dialog? This is, okay. Now after that I'll add one condition. If not, then I'll say o dialog equal to sap.ui.xml fragment. Okay, so this is the method that I have to call if I want to load the fragment from the controller. Okay, so generic syntax is sap.ui.xml fragment, and inside that it generally takes the three parameters. Okay, the first parameter is the ID. So you can pass the ID. So ID you should always pass the ID of the current view. Okay, and then the second parameter is the actual path of your fragment file, and the third part is the current controller. Okay, so you will just pass the this for this current controller. So first I'll pass the ID of view. So this is our oview dot get ID, and then in double quotes the path must be in double quotes. So what is the path? I'll copy the same path that we have already used in the XML. Okay, I'll paste, and after that the third parameter is the current controller. If I want to pass the current controller, I'll simply use this. That's it. Okay, so now once this is done, I'll say o dialog dot open. So open is the method which is supported for the dialog controls. If you want to open the dialog a pop-up, so for that we need to call the open method. Okay, so now this is fine. Okay, so I'll reload this app. Okay, I'll click on open dialog. So I can see one pop-up directly appears. Okay, so I have not added any close button, right? I have to close this pop-up. So you can also close this pop-up with the help of the key, that is the escape button. You can press on the escape button, so it will disappear. I will add one button to this dialog so that a dialog can be closed on the button click. So there is one aggregation as a begin button or end button also. End button. Inside that I'll declare one button. Now I'll copy the same ID. Okay, so this is the ID we have. And after that I'll say dialog dot close. Okay, so close is method for closing the dialog. That's it. Okay, so now when I click on this open dialog, I can see one button. So if I click on the close, so the dialog is getting closed. Okay, so now, so did you guys get what I have written here? What was the reason to add if condition if not dialog? Why I have added the if condition? Can anyone tell me that what is the reason behind this? Guys, please speak up. If you don't know, please tell me.
To get the ID, if we are not getting the ID by o view dot by ID, if we are not getting any object on the line 16, then we will get the ID by passing the namespace and this part com dot app z first. From there we will get the ID and then call it.
But what will happen if okay? So what will happen if I'm not adding this if condition? What will happen?
So if in some cases we are not getting the ID, then O dialog box won't work, open won't work.
Okay, so let me tell you what is the reason behind it. Okay, so now why I have declared this ID. So this is our fragment, right? So this is the fragment. So as of now the fragment is not part of view. Okay, so currently when I inspect, I'll reload this app. Okay, so now I'll check, I'll inspect, I'll go to the elements console. Okay, so this is the tab elements. Can you check or can you identify any ID with related to the dialog box that we have defined inside the fragment.xml? This ID DIG FRAG. I cannot see that ID here. Why? What was the reason behind it? Why it is not available in the elements console?
As you said, it is on top of the view, right?
Mahesh?
So you said it is on top of the view, right?
Yeah, okay.
We are calling the dialog from the controller. So
okay. Okay, so let me tell you what is the reason. Okay, so when you use the fragments, initially a fragment is not. Okay, the fragments are loaded when you initialize it. Okay, if you want to load the fragment, so you will write some code, and at that time when this view is loaded, at the same time when you write a code for the fragment, so automatically your fragment would be available inside the code. But before that, none of the controls are available inside the view because the fragments are not loaded yet, right? So now I cannot see the fragment now because the fragment file is not loaded yet. So that's why I cannot see the whatever the ID I have declared for the dialog inside this console tab, because it is not loaded yet. And if I want to load the fragment, I'll show you guys the network tab. Okay, so how that fragment files load. When I click on this open dialog, you can see one fragment file is loaded here. Okay, hello world.fragment.xml. So at that time, if I go back element, and now I can see that ID whichever I have declared. I'll inspect ID. Okay, so this is the ID that we have declared, right? DIG FRAG. So after if I'm closing this dialog, okay, if I'm closing that dialog, after that also, if I'm again trying to load this fragment, so what will happen? Two dialogs would be loaded in the same view, and it is a drawback. Okay, you should not add the two fragments at the same time. It will always throw you an error. If I'm not adding this condition, let me comment this out. I'll run this. I'll reload. Now this is the console. Okay, first time I have opened this dialog, but what about if I'm closing it and again if I'm trying to open it? See, when I'm again trying to open it, what will happen? It will throw me an error, that is adding element with a duplicate ID. That's why I've added this condition. If not dialog, if this dialog ID is available inside the view, because what will happen once your fragment file is loaded, so that fragment would be the part of view file. Okay, it is a part of view, current view, and after that you don't need to again load this fragment. It is unnecessary of loading of fragment in the view. So we should not load the fragment for the second time. Once the fragment is loaded, it's always available till your application is destroyed. Okay, still your application is killed. You don't have to load the fragment for the second time. So that's why I've added this code. Means if this ID, if this dialog ID is available, then instead of loading this fragment, I can simply write o dialog.open. For the next time, what will happen? If the dialog is already open and if it is closed, so again it will again this function would be executed, and at the line number it will check whether this dialog ID is available or not. If this ID is available, it will skip this step. Instead of loading the fragment, it will directly run. It will directly execute this line of statement o dialog.open. That's it. If you're always trying to reload the, if you're always loading the fragment again and again, so it will give you an error like this, adding element with duplicate IDs. Okay. So now there is also one thing that why I have stored. Okay, so in return, so this is our XML file, but in return it's returning me the dialog, but it is not returning me the dialog, the fragment definition, whatever we have added. Okay, this thing, we are not getting this thing. Instead of that, when we load the fragment, whatever the control we defined inside the fragment definition, it will return the controls. That's why we said that the fragment is a lightweight. Okay, it is not similar to the views, because for the fragment we don't have its methods properties or its control instance, but for the view we have the control instance, but for the fragment we don't have the control instance. So that's why in return, when you load any fragment file, whatever the control is defined inside the fragment, it will return the control rather than returning the fragment. So that's why in return I'm getting dialog. Yes.
What if suppose now you only use one dialog, right? So in case of that, suppose if you are using multiple controls, then what will happen in that case?
Okay, so if you are using the multiple control, so in that case, generally it will return all the content. Okay, but make sure that you add one container to it. Okay, always, like as of now I've added this dialog control, and it is acting as a container for this text control, right? So same like if you declare anything inside the fragment, make sure that you use one root. You should use one root control. Okay, so that will act as a parent to your entire control. Is this fine?
Yeah. Okay. Means every control should have ID so that we can differentiate that this entire thing belongs to this ID.
Yes, yes. Means make sure that if you're adding 2 or 3 controls at the same time, but if you're directly adding it at the outside, so if you want to access entire control at once, that is not possible. Okay, so means you have to specifically identify, you specifically add the ID property to each control. So based on that you can add, but I would suggest you should always you should always use one parent control like dialog or anything. You can use any control, like I can inside the define whichever control you want.
Or
So
we can do suppose for every control we can define another different fragment. Is that also okay?
Yeah, this is also okay. Fine. Fine, because as of now all the controls would be available. Okay, inside the view.xml file, and you can simply access it with the syntax. That's what we have. This.getView.byId. Okay. So any questions in this? So always make sure that in a controller, whenever you declare any fragment, make sure to use this you make sure to add this validations, okay, so that what will happen, you will not get an error like this. Sorry, where it is. Okay, so you will not get an error like this. If you are getting the error like this, it means there is some issue with the syntax of the fragment definition. Okay, so the way you have written the code for loading the fragment or for initializing the fragment, so that is not incorrect. That is an incorrect one. So make sure whenever you use the fragment, add this condition. So once the fragment is loaded, you don't have to load it again and again, because that controls are available in the view.
So Avik, the main purpose of fragment is to improve the performance. Is that right?
Performance and for modularize the code, and if you want to reuse the code for n number of places.
So is it mandatory to use this one, or this also you can use?
Anyone, this we generally use if you are using any dialog control. Okay, if you are using the dialog control, you can generally prefer to use the controller, because you cannot open the dialog simply, right? Where you can write this dialog.open in the XML.
Yes. So it has to be written in the control.
Yes. So generally these fragments are proposed for the controls like the dialog, because dialog is not a part of view. It always appears on the top of view. That's why. Okay, so now this is fine, right, for all of you? And here also the one more thing I just missed it out. So make sure that whenever you initialize a fragment in the controller also, you pass the views ID, oview.getID. If you are not passing this views ID, so this syntax will not work. This .getview.byID. Okay, you cannot get the ID through this syntax, because what will happen, on the runtime SAP will assign a different ID to this fragment, and so instead of avoiding such kind of things, we can simply use this thing. Okay, just add the views ID, so that what will happen, so your dialog is completely unique, or it's completely associated with this view ID. So in some cases also you will not get this error again and again, because what will happen, this same dialog can be used in the n number of views also, right? In the second view, if you are calling the same view, so what will happen, you will at that time when you open the dialog, so you will definitely get this error. To avoid this error, make sure you add the views ID as a first parameter inside the XML fragment. So this is the general syntax that we always need to follow whenever you are using the fragments. So anyone has any questions in this? So is this clear to all of you guys?
Yeah, Vic.
Okay. So one more thing. So how to avoid this error? Okay. So what can be the second reason? Is there anything that we can do to avoid this error? So one way was I already told you to add the views ID, and make sure that you don't execute this line of code again and again, because loading the fragments for n number of times, it can definitely create this issue. But if you want to avoid this issue, you can add one more thing here. So when my dialog is getting closed, so you can add one method, that isodialog.destroy. Make sure that you destroy the content. So next time whenever your dialog is loaded, so automatically automatically the new controls will, whatever the control you define, again it would be added to the view. But the previous one which is already there, it is destroyed with the help of this method. Okay, or dialog.destroy. Let's see now. I'll comment this code. Okay, so now my dialog is open. When I click on close, so the dialog is destroyed. Again, if I'm trying to open, again it would be open. You will not get an error, duplicate kind of error in the console. Okay, so this is the another way that you can do. Make sure that you destroy. But I would definitely suggest to add this condition rather than destroying the dialog. Okay. So is this clear to all of you? Guys, please speak up.
Yes, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm giving you guys the 20 minutes. So we'll continue this call around 6:45. Okay, so till then, please create a project, a separate project, or you can continue on the same project and try to create the fragment definition first. Okay, first create a fragment definition. Make sure that you add the alias name, a namespace name for it. And once that is done, first write with the help of view.xml how to call the fragment in the view.xml, and then try it in the controller.js file. Okay. Once you practice this, then only you will get to know what are the reasons and what can be the issues that if you can encounter during the development. I'll keep this tab open so that you guys can check the code. Hello guys, is it done? Is it done guys, or you need more time?
Well, I am not done still.
Okay. Okay, well, let's yeah. You can take, I can give more 10 minutes, so that would be fine, right?
I'm just trying to incorporate this dialog function for the assignment you have given already, right? Instead of taking into a new page, I wanted to show it as a dialog, the username and the password.
Okay.
So that form I have included into that dialog, into the fragment. Submit after submit.
Then is it working?
No, I'm still writing.
Well, okay, that's fine. You can utilize this 10 minutes and let me know if you still need my help in this. Okay.
Avi, can we go to the XML view, please?
This one?
It's a main page of view XML.
Sorry, fragment.xml file. Yeah.
Can you go to the view.xml, please? Avi, I have completed, but still, actually, my application is not working.
Okay. You're not able to open the fragment?
Yes.
Did you check the syntax? Each and every line of code?
Yeah, it is not showing any error. It's shown that in the lines it's showing not if anything goes wrong. So there is no error.
Okay, so in fragment, what you have declared?
In fragment,
Okay, which control are you using?
simple form. So I'm using this same dialog.
Simple form. Uh-huh. So the fragment is instantiated from the view or from the controller?
In the controller.
In the controller. So in controller, definitely I told you, right? Generally we use the code if you want to write the code in the dialog box. If the controls are something that are not familiar with this dialog, then you can definitely declare that fragment on the view.xml file. It is not necessary to declare in the controller part.
So, no, I have declared in
Try
the view.
by declaring on the view.xml. Is it working or not? Just tell me.
In the view already I done, but it's still not seen. So I will show you after the class.
No, that only I told you, right? If the controls are something with related to the dialog, then only you write your code in the controller. Otherwise, don't write the code in controller.
So no, I didn't write the code. I just write the function part is not in the function part. Maybe I'm missing something.
Avik, as usual, I've got a blank white form. See, I've seen the console. It tells me, what does it tell me? Just a second. Uncaught error. View.xml could not be loaded from that so and so view.xml. File not found. Reason is invalid XML. This page contains the following errors. Error on line, for example, what is it? XML-MS. It is talking about the URI. SAP.em is not absolute. What do you mean by that?
Okay, share your screen, Gayatri.
Share. Just a second. I have to search. Where is that share?
I have to make you as a course. Then only you can see that option. The share.
Yeah.
Can you check now?
Yeah, I can see the share. Just a second. I need to
Remaining
share.
guys, you can also check. So you can also focus on this.
Yeah, now you can see. Should I show you the
Yes, now I can see.
the code?
Could not be loaded.
Yeah, this one.
There is an invalid XML. Just go back to your XML file, I think. The fourth view.xml.
Yeah.
XML file.
Yeah, this is the XML.
XML file.
Yeah, so if you see here, this is the whole registration form which we have done, right? In that what I have done is, in the instead of the for the submit button, you have shown like open dialog button, right? So instead of that, I have used this one, core fragment submit.
Okay. So what I can say that you cannot declare the fragment entirely in the view. That's why we create a separate fragment definition.
Yeah, that's there, no? Here. This is the fragment definition.
Then okay, but the fragment, whatever the tag, if you are using in the XML view.xml file, that should be self closing tag. Okay, you cannot use it as a complete opening and a closing tag, and inside that you can declare the button. That you cannot do, because the fragment is not control.
Okay.
So that's why that button syntax is not working inside the fragment.
Oh, so where should I put the button syntax then?
Yeah, so do one thing, just close the fragment. The line number 53 is there, right?
Huh?
On the line number 53, just add the closing tag. Maybe you can remove line number 54.
Okay, I'll remove the line number 54. Huh? Is this the way we do it? Comment? How do we do it? One line comment.
No, you have to comment the line number 55. Yeah, so if you want to comment it out, just press Ctrl+Shift/. Okay. Now add one forward slash on the after the XML. The type equal to XML is there, right?
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay. So now just save and try to load this one.
No, nothing comes up.
Can you check the error now?
It's the same error.
Could not be.
Yeah, it's a...
Line 1 at the column 130. Okay, just go back to your XML file. Okay, the fragment name, that is right. Syntax is right. Just go up. Go up. Okay, so we do one thing. So where is the core namespace? There is no core namespace, right? You need the core namespace if you want to load the fragment. Equal to, in double quotes, sap.ui.core. Save and now try.
Okay.
Okay, now there is a issue in the fragment.xml file. Okay, so now just open the fragment.xml file.
Layout.
Yes. So that is not added yet, right? Okay. See. Where is the code? Sorry. 1 minute. Right there.
Let's come up.
It's loading.
And now if I give you, what do I give you? And I give you what? Whatever.
So have you added any validations on those fields?
Nothing.
Without adding anything, if you're directly clicking on submit, what will happen?
The dialog, it should show the username and this password. That's it, nothing else. Great, nothing comes up.
Now check the console. I think because in fragment definition there is no core namespace. That's why.
In fragment definition, I don't have the core namespace. Core is here, huh? Here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's there. Layout. Please check the error now.
I have actually put it here as this one, but it has to give me what in the controller. What I have done is I have handle submit. Okay.
There might be some issue with the. Can you check the console once?
It actually has to display the username and the password which I have given there directly on the dialog. Okay.
So on dialog, if you want to display, so before that, when your dialog is open, after that you can access the controls, right? Whatever the input fields or the text fields you declared inside the fragment.xml file. So you need to access those controls first, and after that you need to set the value. So whatever the value you are storing in the name value and the PSD.
Yeah. This is what I am doing. I have to set them. So how do I?
Yes. So for that, if you need to set them, first you need to get the IDs of the respective input fields from the so whatever the controls which are available inside the fragment.
In the fragment, I have them. Here, these are the submit username.
Yes. So where that line of statement is declared?
No, I think I have missed that. I removed that code.
Make sure that you always write this line of code after the dialog dot open. Once your dialog means your dialog is open, after that only you will try to set those values. Okay. So before that it would not be available.
So if I just say like this, it's okay, right? User submit, because this is what I have declared. If you see here, the variable. So submit username.
ID of input field or
for in the dialog.
In the dialog, it's an ID of input field, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you can directly write now. So user submit dot set value. So it is a.
See, it doesn't come up. That is the thing. It doesn't come up. It gives me this bulb. I don't know what that bulb is, but yeah. If you see here, this bulb. It tells me that it displays, but it cannot. I don't know how I have to display. That is one more. I don't.
It will not give a suggestion like methods, but generally it gives the suggestion related to the properties in the XML.
Okay, so set value.
It is a method, so inside that just pass the variable name. So the variable name which is holding the value.
Okay, so from the first form, right?
Yeah.
So it is name.value. Correct?
Yeah, right. So same wise you can do for the rest of the code.
Yeah.
Okay. But before that your dialog was not opening, so we need to check the errors in the console.
So now I execute once again.
Yeah, just please execute and close the other tabs.
So should I give that? Well, I don't have any validations. I've just put it as a mandatory. Yeah. So.
Okay. On submit. Okay. Now
nothing happens.
So now what is saying? This dot get by ID is not a function. So just click on the line number fourthview.controller.js. At the FN handle submit. It's there, right? Fourthview.
This one.
Yeah, that one. Click on that. So it will take you to this line. Okay, so there is one issue with this line, submit form, that is line number 12.
Hmm. So
Line of code?
I am here or here? Should I go here in the code?
Yes, in the code, just comment the line number 12 and 13. No, not like that, Gayatri. Not like that.
Sorry.
Select the two lines, and after that you can use the. You can click on the Control Shift. The V is not inside.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah.
Remove the last one. Yes.
This is too much. Okay.
Now what is this? This dot get element by ID registration form.
Actually, I wanted to use those elements, right? It's not now. This is not a dialog form, right?
Yeah, that also you can comment. Okay, now save it and now just try to open it. Did you save the code?
Yeah, I saved it. Yeah, I saved it.
Okay.
Nothing comes up.
Okay, so as of now what I can see, you're able to get the dialog, right? So
yeah.
Can you please debug the code in the meanwhile so that we can focus on the next topic?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at least you got an idea, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Just debug the code by setting the breakpoints, and you can check whether the value is there or not in the variable.
Yeah. This is the first time I'm going to debug. Yeah, but I'll try. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So Gayatri, you can stop the steering. So I'll.
Yeah, I just stop. It's done, I suppose.
Yes, now it's done.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay, so guys, anyone has any questions apart from what the topics which we have covered till now? If you have any questions with related to the fragments topic, please let me know now itself. Should we proceed with the next topic? Say something, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the next topic is the nested views. Okay. So this is the view that we have created. But what if I want to include one more view inside the current view? Okay. So this is the view main page. So the view.xml is already there. But if I want to include one more XML file, view.xml file in this, so is there any way that I can do, or whether it is possible? I think so. It is possible. That's why I'm. I will explain you this topic, right? Okay. So what I will do, I'll comment this code. So same like the fragment.xml. So we have included the fragment.xml, but there is also the possibility we can nest the views inside the views. Okay. So that can be done easily with the help of the syntax. So if I want to include one more view inside the current view, so the syntax would be core, sorry, not core. View is a part of MVC, right? MVC means this namespace, sap.ui.core.mvc. So I have to prefix this namespace with the view. So I'll use MVC colon. Okay, so after that, what type of so you want to include the view, right? So for including the view, follow the syntax like XML view, and then give the view name equal to same like the fragment name. Okay, and it's not necessary to give the type because already it's a XML view. Okay, so whatever the view we are going to declare inside this current view, this main page view. So I'll before adding that, I'll create a view.xml file. Okay, here. So if you want to create a view.xml file, right click, new, file. So I'll say the next page dot view dot xml. Okay, I'll press OK, and now so whatever the content, it's already available inside the view.xml file. I'll just copy it. Okay, I'll paste it here, but only the some files I'll change, like for this view.xml file. So let's say for the fragment we don't need the controller file, right? So wherever it is initialized, the fragment will use its controller file. Okay, but for the view.xml file, if you want to declare or if you want to use the nested views, so for that, for each view, definitely we have to create its controller file, because the view is it's completely different from the fragment. Okay, it's not similar to the fragment, so that's why the fragment do not need any controller file, but the view needs controller file. So if I have created this next page.view.xml, so for this view.xml file, I have to create one more controller file, and that controller file must be associated with this next page.view.xml file. Okay, so what is the syntax? And now where I have created the view.xml file in the view folder, right? So I'll copy the same syntax what we have and change some names. It's inside the view, and what is the file name? Next page. Okay, so now this is done. So I'll change the controller also. So I'll create a controller name with the next page. Okay, now I'll save the code, and you can remove the code which is not required. Make sure that IDs must be unique throughout the views. And now I'll just declare one more control as a button. Okay, now I'll save. So I'll create one more controller file associated with this view.xml file. Next page dot controller dot js. Okay, so this is the extension that I would give for this controller file. I'll press OK. So now the controller file is created. I'll copy the same content which is already available in the main page dot controller file, but we will remove some code, some part of code from it. Okay. I'll remove all these functions. Okay, so in this I will change the controller name also. So what is our controller name? It's a next page.
I guess you need to remove even the message box.
Right. I just missed it. Okay, so now it's fine. Okay, so what we have done, we have simply nested the view inside the view that we already have in the existing view. Okay, so I have to declare the path here. Path to copy the path from here. Sorry. Okay, so this is the view file. I'll change the controller as a view. So now my code is ready. So I'll reload the app. Okay, so now I can see the next page button, right? But we don't need these subheaders, right? what I can see, there are two headers are coming, so we don't need this. If you want to hide this header also from the view, from the next view that we have created, so you just need to go back to the next page.view.xml, and in the page there is one property, show header and show footer kind of. Okay, just make it as a false, and now reload the page. Okay, so now it's not coming, right? So because we have added one property, show header false. So now what I can say, so what is the main difference between the views and the controller? For each view we definitely need a controller, but for the fragment is completely independent of controller. Okay, but if you want to capture, or if you want to capture any events, so that for events you definitely need a controller for the fragment, but that controller is definitely a existing controller. It always uses the existing controller from where it is been invoked, but it is not the same in case of the views. If you are trying to include some view in the existing view, so for that you definitely have to create a controller associated with that view, then only it would work. So now for this button, so this button is included in the next page, and if I am writing any method, okay, handle, okay, so I cannot include this method inside the main page.controller.file. Okay, so in that it will not work. So for that I have to definitely include that method name inside its own controller file. Okay, so now I'll save the code, I'll reload the app. Okay, so when I press, so automatically, so whatever the function I have declared inside the next page controller file, so that function is called, that particular function is called, rather than calling the main page.controller.js file. So you guys, I think you got a difference, right? Generic difference between the view.xml file and the fragment.xml file. Okay, whenever you include any fragment file inside the view, for that fragment file will definitely use the existing controller, but when you declare any view inside the current view, for that you have to create a separate controller file, and that controller file must be associated with the view that you have included in the existing view. Okay, so this is the nested views concept in the UI5. It's simple, right?
I mean, can you explain once again what are the changes you have done?
Sorry?
Can you tell me what are the changes you have done for the next page? Once again, please.
Okay, so what all the changes I have done? So
Yeah.
when you create any view.xml file, you copy from the existing view.xml file. Okay, just change the controller name. Okay, so the file name which would be associated with the current view. Only change the file name. After that, so you don't need in the one view, you don't need the two headers, right? So you can just make sure that whichever the view file you have created or included, make sure that that page header has been set to the false. Okay, so that header will not be displayed on the page. And after that, once you create the next page.controller file associated with that view, so just copy the existing controller's JS code, okay, here, and so whichever the methods not required, just remove from it and just change the controller name. That's it.
One more question. Means what is the real-time use of this?
What is the
Real-time use means real-time. You are doing a real-time work.
what is
What?
the real-time use? It is also used for the modularize only. Okay, if you want to make the code as a modularize, for example, let's say you have a lot of controls in the first page. Okay, and there are so many controls. So what will happen? If you use the fragment, so definitely that page controller will be heavily loaded with a lot of code, right? So there is also some of the applications for that you have to write more than 3000 4000 lines of code in the single controller. So you can avoid that thing with the help of this nested views, because your code would be separated, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the thing with respect to the nested views. So anyone has any questions in the nested views concept? Okay, so that's fine. So now open your laptop and just try to write this code for the nested views. Okay, just create one view file and include that view file in the existing view, and create a separate controller file also for it, and try to declare a method.
So by the time can you check?
You can wrap up this call.
By the time we can we check our code? Right? Hello?
Sorry, Mahesh, I'm hardly able to hear you.
I'm saying, can I check my code? I'm not able to.
Okay. You want to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Share your screen.
if something I'm doing wrong, so you can help me.
Okay, that's fine. So the remaining guys, you can please continue with the practice. Okay, please create a separate view.xml file and controller for it, and just include that created view.xml file in the existing view file. So this is Mahesh, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute, Mahesh. I'll make you as a host so that you can share your screen. Okay, please check now, Mahesh. Yeah, I'm able to see. I can see your screen. Ramesh, you are on mute.
Yeah, it's okay now?
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so
I thought this causing the problem, so I commented it. Okay. So I included this one UI4 as well. Okay. So in the fragment also, I have done that.
Okay.
So in the main page view, so in the controller also, I have given this one.
Okay.
So I don't know where.
Okay, so one thing I have to tell you, Mesh. So if you're including the fragment file, if you're means calling the fragment file in the view, then you don't need the controller code. Okay, but if you're calling the fragment file from the controller, then you don't need to specify the fragment line of code in the view.xml file.
This one you're saying?
Yeah, for example now, so in the fragment.xml file you declared the dialog, right?
Yes.
Okay, so dialog is there. So why you need to declare the fragment tag inside the view.xml file? You don't have to specify that line of code. You can just comment it out, that core fragment name. Yes, this one, just comment it out. At the same time only one code can run, right?
So either this button is okay, huh?
Yeah, just, you can keep that button as it is, but just comment the line number 17. So
Should I run again?
I think you have not commented the line of 17. No, that is wrong way, Mahesh. Do one thing, just remove that line of code, copy entire line, and now just type Control Shift forward slash or the backslash, anything.
Control Shift back.
Yes. See, now it is commented. Okay. So now just save this code and run this app once. Okay, can you check the console tab? What error you are getting?
No, sorry, but I didn't understand why you asked him to comment that line.
Because we don't need it, right? If you are loading that fragment from the controllers, and then why you need to add that line on the XML? 2 times your fragment would be loaded, and you don't have to load the fragment n number of times. It can be loaded only once. Just expand. Okay. So for adding the text when aggregation surrounding. Okay, so there is an issue. Just show me your XML code, Mahesh.
Which one?
Okay, just hold on. Okay, in the page content only the button is there, and on the top the syntax is everything is right. It is right. Okay, just go to your hello world.fragment.xml file. Okay, so now inside this SAP.m have layout code, the fragment definition. Okay, so the content is also right. Just show me your main.windows.js file. Just scroll down. Okay, just scroll up.
So is this code is causing the problems that commented?
Maybe, yeah, it sometimes it can create an issue. So maybe do one thing. Yeah, just comment it out.
Yes, even I removed this code. Instead of comment, I deleted this code.
So should I do now?
Because if there is any syntax errors in the code also, then also your app will not run. Can you expand this tab so that I can see the issue properly? Okay, just wait. Adding text to an aggregation or surrounding HTML tag is needed, but it is in which file? Have you reloaded the app now?
Yes, I'll try to again.
Yeah, yes. Okay, show me your code again. There must be some issue in the syntax, that's why it's giving us the error. We have to check view or the, yeah, just go to your view.xml file. This
So should I do give you a score?
No, that is not required, Mahesh, because it's a default library, right? Because the button controller,
It's directly in the SAPM.
SAPM, so we don't need it. But why there is an issue? Open your hello world fragment.xml file. Text. I can see each and every line of code is correct only.
That's why I got confused. I'm not able to know what is I doing wrong. There is some issue, but I don't not able to figure it out. Because if everything is right, then it should be open, right?
Yeah, everything is right. And then inside continually you have added the code as a text, and that text control is already available inside SAP.m. The tags are also closed properly. In end button you have added the button. Dialog is getting closed. And the fragment definition. Show me your controller.js. So what we will do, we will just comment all the methods in the controller file. We'll check line by line.
And this one as well?
Yeah, just on the line number 27, the ending tag is there, right?
Yes.
Star and slash, just cut and paste it up in the end of the line. Yeah, just go down.
Where do we have?
Yeah, paste it. Yeah, after this line. Okay, in the line number 5. Star slash. Before that, give the star and slash. Okay. Now save the code and open the hello world.fragment.xml file. Inside that also comment all the code. Till means only the dialog code comment out. Okay. Now just go to your main page.view.xml. Okay. Can you please remove this code? Whatever the the code you have commented it. Okay. Can you remove the lines also, 9 and 10 line?
Yes.
Pages, page, footer, bar, content right, button. Okay, now save and run the code. Is it opening now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now do one thing. Now just go back to your web ID and uncomment the dialogs code. Okay, now check again. Yes. So if that is also fine, then we will uncomment the methods. Okay, now this is also working. Now just go to the controller file. Okay, so inside the controller, you can just remove this star and paste it after the line number 27. Yeah, there. Okay, so in this line number, this dot get view, we need to check the syntax. View.byId. Okay, so by ID. So there is an issue with the by ID on the line number 30. D is not capital; it's a small d. Okay, after that, XML fragment view.getId. Okay, the syntax is right. Dialog.open, and in the end, okay. So on the line number 39 also there is some syntax in the close. So close CLO SE. Yeah. Okay. Now save the code and now run once again. Okay, now click on the open dialog. Again click on the open dialog. Event is not triggering, right?
Yes.
Because, can you check your code once? Check the method name. Yes, method name once. Now save and run. But at least did you means you're able to understand, right, where you missed
Yes,
it?
yes.
What
Yes,
was the
yes.
issue?
Yeah.
These small things can make your life miserable. Okay, so now you're getting that hello world.fragment.xml could not be loaded from the fragment. Now check the path. Let's check the path. Okay, so dot fragment folder. What is your folder name? It's a fragment dot hello world. Hello world. Okay, so that is also fine. Just go on top. We need to check whether the com dot calp first app is it the same that. Yeah, copy that line of code. Okay, just remove the okay, paste there. Yeah, remove the main page and controller also. Okay, that's it. Now the spelling is right? Hello world.
Yes. Yeah.
Is something capital case? Okay, so one more mistake you have done. So for the fragment, check the extension. It is just a fragment. It is not a fragment. You need to rename the file.
This one?
On the left hand side, yes, the extension. The folder name is right. For the folder name, I don't have any issue. But for the file name that you have created, hello world, for that always the extension must be .fragment.xml. It is not .fragments.
Okay.
Remove the s from the fragments.
So I cannot rename that.
Yeah, you can rename. Remove the s and now save. Okay, now can you please reload the app?
Click on this.
Is not found. Okay, just show me your code that not found. It is unable to identify that file. .ur.xml fragment. Path is also right. Path is also right. OView.getID. Can you please show me your main page.view.xml? Okay, so in that just copy the controller name. On the top there is a controller name property, right, in the view. Yeah, inside that just copy all the path. Go back to your main page.controller.js. Now just replace the path. Okay, change the file name as a hello world. Yeah, folder name is one. So what was the mistake? You have created the fragments folder outside of web app. The fragments folder, it must be inside the web app, right?
So can we move?
Put that folder inside the web app.
Can we move now?
Yeah, just right click and check whether you're getting the option as a move. I think it's not there. Okay, do one thing. Just create one folder. Okay.
Yeah, it is there.
Yeah, it's there, right? Okay, so now it should work.
Hello, cut paste option is there.
Yeah, I have done it.
Okay, now check. No, change the file name. You have not added the file name of that fragment file inside the path. 1 minute, Ganesh. 1 minute, Ganesh. I'll come back to you. Okay, that's fine. Now save and reload the app.
Yeah.
Now it's getting open, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank
you
you.
can continue with the current development, Mahesh.
Yes.
Tell me, Ganesh, what is your issue?
No, I was just telling cut paste option is there to move the file folder.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I was just telling cut paste option is there to move the folder in web app.
Ganesh, your voice it's not clear at all. Can you make sure
No.
that your mic is?
No, he was telling that there is a cut paste option is there. He was trying to tell that.
There is no cut paste with this version. So Mahesh, are you able to cut paste?
Yeah, I have done that only. No.
Okay, but for Ganesh, you are not able to see that option.
No.
Yeah, I was telling that only.
Okay, so what about the others? Are you guys able to do the development part? Akash, Pavan, Kiran.
Yes, sir, we are doing.
The Prem, I think Prem left the call. Might be an internet issue, maybe. Okay, so after 10 minutes, we'll close this call.
Avi, can you see your screen, please?
Hello? Yes, Mahesh?
Hey, can you share your screen, please?
Okay, you want to check? Okay. 1 minute, I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes. Can you go to the next page, please?
This one?
Yeah. You can click on the control page, next page control.
Hello?
Can you click on the next page control?
Okay.
Thank you. Can you go to the main page please?
This one or XML?
XML, main page. Thank you. Yeah, done. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, so is it done, or should we close this call for today? The recorded video with you. Is that
Yes, sir, we can.
fine for all of you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And what about the assignments, the task for today? So the task would be the same. So whatever till now we have implemented in the task, like we have used the icon tab bars, okay, some images. So maybe what you can do, you can reduce the size of the views code, okay, and just whatever the code. So how you will reduce the size? By making the code as a modularize. So just try to put all that code inside the fragment.xml file, or you can also create the nested view files. Okay, whichever the way you like, please try to reduce the length of the code of the XML file, and put all of your code. Maybe try to reduce the code by adding the code inside the fragment file. Okay, so that is only the task.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay then, thank you very much guys, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek.